Story 1: My Late Night Ritual. Walmart's desolate clearance aisle. I found strange comfort in solitude, thrill in forgotten treasures. This happened. The quiet hum of lights was my only companion. I relished the peace and escape, my secret world of discarded hopes. I spent hours examining every dusty box. Each item had a story. I felt a strange connection to these forgotten things. Being the sole seeker in this goods graveyard was empowering. I was a curator, giving cast-offs brief attention. One Tuesday near kitchenware I heard it, a faint whisper like static. I dismissed it as store noise. Then an unnatural cold spot, around old children's toys, not the A/C. I shivered, uneasy. My logic failed, a prickling sensation crawled up my spine. Something felt different, unsettlingly present. The whispers returned, clearer, a sigh from forgotten picture frames, a secret conversation I couldn't grasp. I felt watched, though the aisle was deserted. The air grew heavy, my solitude curdled into dread. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was expectant. Every creak, every hum carried a hidden message. One night near damaged books, whispers sharpened. Muffled pleas, a mournful chorus, my heart pounded. A distinct chill enveloped me near a chipped porcelain doll. Its vacant eyes radiated profound sadness. I reached for the doll, compelled. The porcelain was ice cold, a wave of grief not my own. Next, a faded children's book. Touching it, I saw a child's tear-stained face, a fleeting tremor. Whispers intensified around these objects, a cacophony of desperate cries. I felt their presence. Profound sadness settled upon me, not just items but relics steeped in tragedy. I needed to help. The pull to specific items became undeniable. They called to me, their silent pleas echoing. My hand reached for a tarnished silver locket. It felt heavy with unseen history. An irrational urgency seized me. I had to buy it, save it, an act of mercy. I also picked up a dusty music box. Silent but with latent energy, a story untold. At checkout, the cashier gave me a strange look. My mumbled excuse felt hollow. At home, the locket was intensely cold. It pulsed against my skin, a frozen teardrop. I tried to open it, sealed shut. The music box remained silent, secrets tightly held. That night, dreams began, vivid, unsettling, fragments of other lives, sorrowful and brief. Glimpses of unfamiliar hands, faces, despair, objects broadcasting pasts into my subconscious. Driven by connection, I researched old news, local tragedies, anything linking to items. I became an unwitting detective, piecing ghostly clues, obsessed to understand the whispers. The locket vibrated with anticipation, its coldness a constant reminder leading me. My life consumed, sleep offered no rest, only visions. My ritual became a terrifying quest. I had to return. The clearance aisle was the source, the nexus. Answers awaited. Back in the aisle, whispers roared. Lost, broken, forgotten, a chilling chorus. Air crackled, every item pulsed with faint light, sorrow amplified, collective anguish. My eyes fell on an old, cracked mirror. Its dull surface called to me. Reaching for it, whispers swelled. The mirror vibrated, intensely cold. I braced. In its reflection, a fleeting, distorted image. A distraught person. It vanished. Terrifying clarity hit me, not just unwanted goods, anchors for fragmented spirits. They clung to items, desperate to communicate pasts, their final, silent screams. Voices intensified, a crushing weight of sorrow. They wanted to be heard. Overwhelmed, I dropped the mirror. It shattered. Pieces reflected distorted sorrows. I spun, desperate to escape. Items reached out, cries deafening, their cold fingers. I fled the aisle, heart hammering, left everything, just needed to get out. Ran past checkouts, security, burst into cool night air, gasping, whispers still. Haven't been back, memory too vivid, terror too real, bargain thrill replaced by dread. But horror didn't end. Every discarded item in thrift stores carries a silent question. How many hold silent screams? echoes of lives cut short, souls unremembered. World full of anchors, silent witnesses, I see them everywhere now. I'll never forget, Walmart clearance aisle wasn't deals, it was a portal. My treasure hunt became a nightmare of sorrows, thrill gone, unsettling awareness. Sometimes late at night I swear I hear them, faint whispers calling from everything. The whispers never left, they're everywhere, a chilling reminder, some things are never forgotten. Story 2, I took the Walmart night shift for the quiet, for the solitude. It was just me, the vast aisles, and the hum of refrigerators after closing. This happened to me, and I'll never forget it. Initially, it felt peaceful, a strange kind of freedom in the deserted store, stocking shelves in silence, listening only to my own thoughts. It was a stark contrast to the daytime chaos. I cherished those moments of calm, navigating the vast, empty retail labyrinth. The store transformed from a bustling marketplace into a silent, almost sacred space, or so I thought. The fluorescent lights hummed a steady lullaby. I'd move through departments, organizing, tidying, the silence broken only by the squeak of my shoes or the occasional clatter of a dropped item. It was my domain. This job was perfect for me, an introvert seeking refuge from the world. No customers, no small talk, just me and the endless rows of products. It was my quiet sanctuary, a place of peace. It started subtly, just a trick of the eye, I told myself. A shadow cast by a towering shelf seemed to ripple, almost like it was breathing. I blamed fatigue, the late hours. A display case shadow would look like it shifted when I wasn't directly looking. A fleeting movement, a peripheral distortion. My mind must be playing games, I reasoned. The fluorescent lights, I decided, were the culprit. Their constant, artificial glow could easily create optical illusions, especially in the vastness of the store. It had to be that. I'd rub my eyes, shake my head, and refocus. The shadows would always return to their static, inanimate forms. It was just exhaustion, nothing more, or so I desperately tried to believe. One night, while stacking toilet paper, a shadow from the adjacent aisle seemed to stretch, reaching further than it should. It was unsettling, but I dismissed it as a momentary lapse of concentration. The vast emptiness of the store, once a comfort, now began to feel oppressive. The silence, once peaceful, now seemed to hold its breath. I felt a growing sense of isolation. I started checking my watch more frequently, counting down the hours until morning. The night, once a friend, was slowly becoming an adversary, filled with unseen anxieties. The air grew colder in certain aisles, even though the thermostat was consistent. A shiver would run down my spine, not from the temperature, but from an inexplicable dread. I was losing my composure. I began to quicken my pace, eager to finish my tasks and escape the quiet. The peaceful solitude was replaced by a gnawing impatience, a desire for the sun to rise. The innocent tricks of the eye were becoming less innocent. They were evolving, becoming more defined, more insistent. The store was changing around me, or perhaps I was. But then it became more frequent. The shadows from the clothing racks would elongate, almost reaching out like grasping fingers. This wasn't just fatigue, this was something else. I'd hear faint, almost imperceptible scuttling sounds from aisles I knew were empty. A soft rustle, a whisper of movement. My heart would pound, but when I investigated, nothing. The feeling of being watched became a constant, prickling sensation on my neck. I'd spin around, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but always nothing, just empty aisles. The store's vastness, once comforting, now felt like an arena where I was the sole performer and an unseen audience watched my every move. The air grew heavy. I started talking to myself just to break the silence, to reassure myself I wasn't alone. My voice echoed strangely, swallowed by the cavernous space. It offered little comfort. The shadows weren't just moving, they were observing asterisk. I saw them coalesce in the peripheral vision, dark masses that dissipated the moment I turned my head. It was a cruel game. My flashlight became my only ally, a beacon against the encroaching dread. I swept its beam constantly, trying to catch them to prove I wasn't imagining things, but they were too fast. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Every night I'd dread going back, but the bills piled up. I was trapped, needing the job, but terrified of the store after dark. I started leaving the main lights on in sections I'd just finished, a futile attempt to push back the darkness. But the shadows seemed to thrive in the edges, just out of direct illumination. The silence was no longer peaceful, it was a hungry silence, waiting. The store wasn't empty, it was merely quiet, holding its breath, and I was in its belly. One night, while restocking in the electronics section, the shadow of a forgotten shopping cart in the distance moved asterisk. Not just shifted, but crawled along the floor. This happened to me. It was a dark, amorphous blob detaching from the cart's form, slithering across the linoleum. My breath caught in my throat, my heart hammered against my ribs. I instinctively shone my powerful flashlight directly at it. The moment the beam touched it, the shadow vanished instantly. It simply ceased to be, leaving me trembling. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the flashlight. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation. A trick of the light? No, this was different. This was real. I stood frozen, staring at the empty spot, the faint hum of the refrigerators the only sound in the vast silence. The store felt alive, and it wasn't friendly. I was truly terrified. The shadows began to take on more defined, yet still formless, shapes. They'd linger at the edge of my vision, coalescing in the deepest dark corners. They were watching, waiting. They felt malevolent, like silent hunters. Their presence was a cold, oppressive weight in the air, a palpable evil that seeped from the very fabric of the store. This was not normal. I started to notice how they seemed to recede from the light, always staying just out of direct view. They were sensitive, shy, but their hunger was undeniable. They craved the dark. I tried to avoid the darkest aisles, sticking to the main thoroughfares, but they were everywhere. They were the very essence of the store's forgotten corners, its hidden depths. I'd hear soft scraping sounds like something being dragged just beyond the range of my flashlight. My breath hitched. I knew it wasn't a rat. It was something larger, more deliberate. The silence of the store became a canvas for their movements. Every creak, every distant hum felt amplified, a signal that they were near. My nerves were frayed, my sanity slipping. I began to see faint, almost transparent distortions in the air, like heat haze, but cold. These were their outlines, their forms before they fully manifested. They were everywhere. My shifts became a desperate game of hide and seek. I'd rush through my tasks, constantly glancing over my shoulder, my heart a drum against my ribs. I was no longer alone. The feeling of being prey intensified. I was a trespasser in their domain, a meal waiting to be consumed by the encroaching darkness. The store had become a living trap. I knew then with chilling certainty that the store wasn't just quiet, it was waiting for the perfect moment, for the lights to fail, for me to be truly alone. I was marked. It happened in the toy aisle. I was rushing to finish, a frantic energy propelling me. The main lights flickered violently, then died, plunging the store into near darkness. For a moment, the silence was absolute, broken only by my ragged breathing. Then, the hum of the refrigerators seemed to intensify, a low, guttural growl in the sudden blackness. That's when I saw them not just shadows, but things made of pure darkness, slithering from beneath shelves, their forms vaguely humanoid but utterly wrong. My blood ran cold. They had no discernible features, just shifting, malevolent outlines. They moved with an unnatural fluidity, like oil and water converging on me. The air grew impossibly cold. One lunged, a cold, intangible sensation brushing my leg as I bolted. It felt like being touched by absolute zero, a fleeting, chilling touch that seared into my memory. I screamed. My heart pounded like a war drum in my chest. I didn't look back, just ran, adrenaline flooding my system. I realized the store wasn't just quiet, it was asterisk waiting asterisk, and now it was hunting. The emergency lights flickered on, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to mock my flight. I could still feel their presence, a palpable weight behind me, closing in. I sprinted out, not even bothering to clock out, never looking back. The automatic doors hissed open, and I burst into the pre-dawn air, gasping, shaking uncontrollably. I was free. I never went back to Walmart, not even as a customer. The memory of those living shadows, the predatory darkness, haunts me still. I see them in every flicker of light. I often wonder who works the night shift now, and if they've seen them too. The thought of those things lurking in the aisles, waiting for the dark, still makes my blood run cold. They're still there. Story 3. I'm Mark, a night security guard at Walmart. My job, cameras, patrols, this happened to me. A quiet shift became terrifying. I'll never forget that night. My routine was set: clock in, coffee, surveillance, hours watching empty parking lots. Mind-numbing. I craved quiet. It was about to change. The parking lot was my domain, hundreds of spaces. I knew every corner, or so I thought. This familiarity would unravel into pure terror. Shifts were uneventful, predictable. I never anticipated something unnatural, a hungry void. My peace was shattered. This wasn't normal. The chilling turn started subtly. A call, missing car. I swore I parked it here. We dismissed it, just forgetful, until it wasn't. First report: silver sedan gone. Cameras showed nothing, no theft, just gone. Filed a report. It felt unsettling. An emptiness lingered. Management brushed it off. People forget, Mark, Gary chuckled, or Toad. I tried to believe him, but a seed of doubt grew. Weeks later, another call, red pickup. Same story, same empty spot, cameras nothing, like it blinked out. My unease grew. Gary stuck to theories, but my gut told me something else. Something was terribly, impossibly wrong, beyond human explanation. That nagging feeling persisted. Anxiety replaced boredom. Every missing car report, a cold knot. This wasn't normal. Gary's words were hollow. Then the third, blue minivan, owner distraught, teddy bear inside, not forgetfulness. A pattern too frequent, it demanded my attention. My gut churned. 3 cars in 2 months vanished. No broken glass, just empty spaces, chilling. The impossibility haunted me. Coincidence, theft ring, no evidence, even on cameras, defied logic. I needed answers. My instincts screamed danger. The nagging feeling intensified, more than a feeling, a conviction. Something unsettling was happening. In plain sight, I felt it. I decided to pay closer attention, started my own log, risking my job. I had to know. This became an obsession. My log, my secret project, every missing vehicle, every suspicion, dates, times, location, seeking any thread to make sense. Weeks passed, entries grew, SUV, sedan, hatchback. A chilling realization dawned, an undeniable pattern, a horrifying truth. The location, always the same general area, not just north or east. A cluster. I marked them on a map. My hand trembled. Specifically C14 and spots around it, near the third cart corral. A cold shiver, not random, precisely targeted. It was chillingly obvious, not unfortunate events, targeted, same asphalt. My stomach tightened, fear I'd never known consumed me. Not random but focused, like a predator. My blood ran cold. What targets cars? Why C14? What was there? Every time the same spot, a beacon for disappearance. I dreaded seeing a car pull into C14, morbid fascination mixed with terror. A disturbing pattern emerged, not human error, not theft, something else beyond comprehension. Hairs on my neck stood, primal fear. This wasn't forgetfulness or towing, far more sinister. Cars weren't moved, they ceased to exist, horrifying, I felt it in my bones. Something was wrong with C14, not just a spot, an anomaly. I needed raw footage, proof, even if it terrified me. I pulled weeks of archived footage for C14, hours of recordings, fast-forwarding, waiting for moments before and after. My heart pounded. Hours blurred, cars, people, then the truth, my breath hitched. I saw it clear as day. This happened to me, it defied everything. My heart pounded. Family in a minivan, C14, laughed, entered store. Minivan remained still, a false calm before the horror. Then no warning, minivan shimmered, not a glitch, a distortion like heat haze. My jaw dropped, pure terror gripped me. Didn't drive off or get towed, it simply dematerialized like a bad special effect, real. One frame there, next gone, blood ran cold. No tow truck, no driver, a clean, abrupt disappearance, not theft, erasure. Reality settled in heavy, suffocating emptiness. Another incident, worse, lone driver, young woman in her car, checking phone. Same shimmer, distortion, she was inside, my stomach twisted. They dematerialized with their vehicles, her car and her vanished, no scream, gone, helplessness, silent, horrifying consumption, unseen horror. Leaving no trace, no shattered glass, no oil, asphalt pristine, nothing, it defied physics, impossible, yet I witnessed it, real. Disbelief turned to dread, not prank, not theft, something ancient, hungry, beneath Walmart, isolation and terror. No one would believe me. C14 was a void, a gaping maw disguised as asphalt. Disappearances grew. My shifts became a desperate vigil, watching horror unfold. More frequent, more brazen, cars vanished even in daylight. The hot spot was an active, terrifying threat. I couldn't keep this secret. I tried to warn Gary, showed him footage, explained. He watched, bewildered, then hardened. Skepticism, my pleas ignored, futile. Mark, enough sleep, he condescended, laughed. Malfunction, prank, stressed. He refused to see, my pleas were futile. Just a glitch, Mark, his verdict, refused to escalate. Warnings met disbelief, sanity questioned. Alone, I'll never forget. Obsessed, terrified, I staked out C14 myself. After shifts, I hid, watching, had to witness it, prove I wasn't crazy, the truth. One cold night I saw it, sedan in C14. Driver reached for door, car shimmered not just on camera but with my own eyes. It distorted, twisted, silently, impossibly it sank. Asphalt opened, swallowed, closed, no trace, a terrifying gulp, horror. This wasn't a sinkhole, no crumbling earth, a clean, unnatural consumption, not a prank, something else. Fear paralyzed me. The parking lot itself was a nexus, a living, consuming entity, claimed cars and drivers, a hungry void hidden waiting. One night, a family headed for C14. Panic seized me. I sprinted, yelling, "Stop!" Their chatter drowned me, too late. I was too late. As they opened doors, car shimmered, a cold, unnatural pull. Vehicle, family dissolved, silent scream, horror. Traumatized, frantic, I reported everything. Police came for me, branded delusional, dismissed, claims covered up, no one cared. I never set foot in another Walmart parking lot. The memory haunts me. Every empty space, asphalt shimmer, terror, I see it. Some places aren't just empty spaces but hungry voids, waiting for victims. No one would believe me. The Walmart parking lot is still waiting. This happened to me. Story 4, this happened to me. It was late, past midnight, a last-minute dash to Walmart for my daughter's birthday gift. Exhaustion hung heavy, blurring the fluorescent lights. I just wanted to grab the perfect doll and be home. The store was eerily quiet, the usual hum of shoppers replaced by an unsettling stillness. My footsteps echoed on the polished floor, the only sound. It felt like I was the only living soul in the vast building. My daughter Lily had specifically asked for a new, unique doll. I sighed, pushing my cart towards the toy section, dreading the overwhelming choice but determined to find that special gift. As I rounded the corner into the toy aisle, a chill ran down my spine. It wasn't cold, but something felt off. Among the vibrant plastic and modern electronics, one particular doll stood out. It was an antique-looking doll, porcelain-like, with delicate features and old-fashioned clothes. Its large, painted blue eyes seemed to possess a strange, unnerving depth, unlike its plastic neighbors. As I passed, I could have sworn its head tilted just a fraction of an inch. Its unblinking eyes seemed to follow my movement. I dismissed it, blaming my fatigue and the late hour. "Just tired," I muttered to myself, rubbing my temples. My imagination was playing tricks. Dolls don't move. They are inanimate objects, forever frozen in their manufactured expressions. I continued down the aisle, scanning for something suitable for Lily. There were so many choices: Barbies, baby dolls, action figures, each one with its own vacant, plastic stare. Nothing caught my eye. I circled back, still searching. As I approached the section where the antique doll sat, a knot tightened in my stomach. My earlier unease returned, stronger. And there it was, unmistakable. The doll's head was now distinctly turned towards me, its porcelain gaze directly locked on my position. It was no trick of the light. My heart hammered. Someone must have moved it, I reasoned. A prank perhaps by an employee or a bored shopper earlier. It had to be a logical explanation. I tried to laugh it off, a nervous, hollow sound in the silent aisle. But the doll's stare felt too intentional, too aware. It sent a profound shiver down my spine. I picked up a different doll, a bright, modern one, trying to distract myself. But my peripheral vision kept dragging back to the antique doll, its unblinking eyes still following. This wasn't fatigue, this was something else entirely. A cold prickle of fear started to spread, replacing my exhaustion with a jolt of pure adrenaline. I felt observed. I decided to move further down the aisle, away from the unsettling doll. But as I walked, the feeling of being watched intensified, growing into an undeniable pressure. It wasn't just one pair of eyes anymore. It felt like hundreds, thousands. The sheer volume of plastic gazes bored into my back, a silent, oppressive weight. I stopped, my breath catching in my throat. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken observation. Slowly, hesitantly, I turned, and there they were, rows upon rows of dolls, baby dolls, action figures, their unblinking eyes all seemingly fixed on me. Barbie dolls, their plastic smiles frozen, seemed to smirk. Baby dolls, with their innocent expressions, now looked sinister. Even the superhero action figures appeared to judge. This wasn't possible. It was my mind playing tricks, but the sheer number, the undeniable alignment of their gazes, it was too much to simply dismiss. A desperate thought sparked. I had to test it. I had to prove I was wrong, that it was all in my head. I moved quickly, darting away. I ducked behind a display of board games, peeking out cautiously. My heart was a drum against my ribs. Had they shifted? Could they possibly have shifted? Yes, they had. The collective gaze, that oppressive, silent focus, had realigned. Now, from my new vantage point, they were all staring directly at me again. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. This was real. This was happening. My rational mind screamed for an explanation, but there was none to be found. I tried again. I sprinted to the far end of the aisle, hiding behind a towering stack of oversized plush animals. My breathing was shallow, ragged. Peeking out, my eyes wide with terror, I saw it. Again, the subtle, impossible shift. Every single doll, every unblinking eye, they knew exactly where I was. They weren't just watching, they were asterisk tracking asterisk. My every move, every attempt to evade their silent scrutiny was met with their unnerving, collective precision. The air grew colder, heavy with an unseen presence. The silence of the aisle was no longer peaceful. It was a suffocating blanket, amplifying their silent observation. Panic began to bubble, a hot, acrid taste in my mouth. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a hallucination. This was a nightmare unfolding in fluorescent light. Overwhelmed by the silent, unblinking army, I found myself drawn back, not towards the exit, but towards the source of my initial unease, the antique doll. It stood there exactly as I'd left it, its head turned. But now, as I approached, its delicate porcelain face seemed to twist, subtly, a knowing smirk. Its painted eyes, once just unsettling, now held a glint of ancient malevolence, a predatory intelligence. It was waiting for me. They were all waiting. Then it came, not a sound, not a voice, but a chilling sensation that filled my mind. A cold, ancient whisper, devoid of words, yet perfectly understood. "We know you." It resonated not in my ears, but directly in my thoughts. "We see you." The words were like ice, piercing through my sanity. The dolls around me, the entire aisle, seemed to vibrate with this silent message. A collective consciousness, a monstrous sentience within the plastic army. "We've been waiting." That was the final, most terrifying thought, not for me specifically, but for anyone, for an opportunity, for release. My blood ran cold. The toy aisle, once mundane, was now a tomb of unblinking eyes and silent, ancient malice. I was trapped, a specimen under their collective gaze. That was it. My mind snapped. The rationalizations, the disbelief, shattered. A primal scream clawed at my throat, but no sound escaped my lips. I dropped my shopping basket. It clattered loudly on the floor, scattering bright plastic toys. The sound was deafening in the profound silence of the aisle. I turned and ran, not walked, not hurried. I ran. My legs pumped, adrenaline coursing through me, blurring the shelves, the lights, everything. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The thought of those unblinking eyes, realigning, following my desperate flight, was simply too much to bear, too horrifying. Out of the toy aisle, past the deserted clothing racks, through the empty electronics section, each frantic step a desperate plea for escape, for sanity. The automatic doors of the exit shimmered ahead, a beacon of safety, of freedom. I burst through them, gasping for breath into the cold night air. I fumbled for my car keys, my hands shaking so violently I could barely unlock the door. Every shadow was a doll, every glint a watching eye. I scrambled into the driver's seat, locking the doors with a frantic click. The car roared to life, and I sped out of the parking lot, leaving the silent, watchful store behind. I drove home in a daze, the chilling whisper still echoing in my mind. "We know you, we're waiting." It was burned into my very soul forever. The experience left me permanently unsettled. The mundane world was irrevocably tainted. Every doll, every mannequin, every inanimate object now held a dark potential. A potential for sinister sentience, for unblinking eyes to follow, for silent whispers to pierce the veil of my sanity. I'll never forget that night. I never went back to that Walmart. I can't even drive past it without a wave of nausea and primal fear. And toy aisles, I avoid them like the plague. My daughter still got a doll, ordered online, carefully chosen. But even now, sometimes, late at night, I hear a faint creak and wonder if the unblinking dolls of Walmart are still watching, still waiting for me. Story 5. I'd been a Walmart delivery driver for 15 years, mostly on those remote overnight routes. There was a strange peace in the solitude of the open road, just me and the hum of the engine. But one particular night, that silence felt different, heavy with an unseen presence. This happened to me. The air in the cab was usually stagnant, but that night an inexplicable chill seeped in, raising the hairs on my arms. I checked the vents, the windows, but nothing was open. It was as if the cold was emanating from within the truck itself, a subtle, unsettling shift in the atmosphere. My route was a familiar loop through forgotten towns and endless stretches of forest, places where streetlights were a luxury. I knew every bend, every dip, but that night, even the familiar landmarks seemed to twist into something alien, watched by unseen eyes in the darkness. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to fatigue. 15 years on the road takes its toll, but this wasn't just tiredness. It was a primal unease, a sense that something was deeply wrong, a feeling I hadn't experienced since my days in the Marines. The radio crackled with static, refusing to pick up anything but white noise. My phone had no signal, a common occurrence out here, but tonight it felt like an intentional isolation. I was utterly alone, save for whatever was causing this creeping dread. Deep into my route, around 3 a.m., I pulled over for a routine cargo check. Habit, mostly. I needed to stretch my legs and confirm everything was secure. This was when I discovered it, wedged far back, obscured by pallets of paper towels and canned goods. It was an unmarked, unlisted wooden crate, not on my manifest. Unlike anything I'd ever seen, roughly 3 feet by 4 feet, made of thick, dark wood reinforced with heavy iron bands, it looked ancient, out of place in a modern Walmart truck. My manifest was always meticulously detailed, every item, every pallet accounted for. This crate simply wasn't there. A cold dread began to coil in my stomach. Who put it there? Why was it unlisted? And what the hell was inside? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a last-minute addition, a mistake, but the way it was hidden, almost deliberately behind other cargo, felt sinister. My flashlight beam danced over its surface, revealing no labels, no shipping information. The wood felt strangely cold to the touch, colder than the metal walls of the truck. A faint, metallic scent like old blood and rust seemed to cling to it. My hand recoiled instinctively, a warning sign from my gut. As I stood there, a faint, unsettling hum emanated from the crate. It was barely audible, a low vibration that I felt more than heard, resonating through the floor of the truck. My heart began to pound. The hum was soon followed by a low, rhythmic thumping. Thump, 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 like a slow, heavy heartbeat growing increasingly louder. It wasn't the shifting of cargo, this was internal, deliberate. An inexplicable chill, far colder than before, permeated the entire cargo area. My breath plumed in the air. This wasn't just the night air, it was an unnatural, deep cold, radiating from that damn crate. I backed away slowly, my eyes fixed on the thumping box. The sound was becoming more insistent, more forceful. It was definitely coming from inside. Something was alive in there, something big enough to make that crate move. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. An animal? No, too large, too deliberate. The thumping wasn't panicked, it was pulsing, a terrifying, steady beat that filled the silence of the truck. The thumping suddenly turned into frantic scratching. Sharp, desperate sounds of claws or nails scraping against wood, followed by muffled whimpers and groans. My blood ran cold. It sounded human or something horrifyingly close. I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call dispatch. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Still no signal. The isolation felt like a cruel joke, a trap set just for me. I climbed back into the cab, my heart hammering against my ribs. I tried the CB again, frantically twisting the dial. Static, then a faint, distorted voice. "Dispatch, this is driver 57. I have an unlisted item." The voice on the other end was tinny, almost mocking. Driver 57, we copy. Special delivery protocols are in place for the unmarked item. Proceed as directed. Special protocols, they knew about it. What item? It's not on my manifest. There are sounds coming from it. I yelled into the mic, my voice cracking. The scratching and whimpering from the back of the truck were now undeniable, a guttural symphony of terror. Driver 57, remain calm. The item is priority. Your new destination will be transmitted shortly. Do not interact with the cargo. Repeat, do not interact. The voice was cold, devoid of emotion. My mind reeled. They knew. They explicitly told me not to interact. What kind of cargo was so secret, so dangerous, that I wasn't even supposed to look at it? And why was I, a 15-year veteran, suddenly in the dark? The sounds from the crate escalated. The scratching became more violent, more desperate. The whimpers turned into guttural moans, then choked gasps as if whatever was inside was suffocating, struggling for air. I wanted to stop, to open the crate, to see what horror I was unknowingly transporting, but the dispatch's warning echoed in my ears. Do not interact. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The thought of pulling over, of abandoning the truck, crossed my mind, but the consequences of defying dispatch, especially with special protocols involved, felt just as terrifying as the crate itself. I was trapped. A few minutes later, the CB crackled again. Driver 57, new destination received. Coordinates uploaded to your GPS. Proceed immediately. The voice was flat, final. The coordinates led me far off my planned route, miles off-grid. The GPS displayed a desolate area marked private property on the digital map, deep within dense forest. No roads, just a faint trail. As I turned off the paved road onto a crumbling, abandoned logging trail, the truck lurched and groaned. The trees closed in, their branches scraping against the sides, obscuring the already faint moonlight. The sounds from the crate escalated further. The scratching was relentless, a desperate plea for release. The whimpers and groans had turned into chilling, almost human-like cries, muffled by the wood but unmistakable. I tried to drown out the sounds with the radio, but it was still just static. The cries seemed to penetrate the cab, seeping into my very bones. I imagined what horrors were unfolding just feet behind me. Every bump in the road made the crate groan, and the cries intensified. I was driving straight into a nightmare, an unwilling participant in some unspeakable act. My hands were slick with sweat on the steering wheel. The air grew heavier, colder, permeated by that metallic, bloody stench that now seemed to fill the entire truck. It was the smell of fear, of suffering, and something else, something predatory. I kept telling myself it wasn't real, that it was just my imagination, fueled by exhaustion and the isolation. But the sounds, the smell, the bone-deep chill, they were too vivid, too terrifyingly real. The GPS indicated I was almost there. Destination on your left. Left was just an even denser thicket of trees, barely a clearing visible. This couldn't be right, but the coordinates were precise. I slowed the truck, peering through the rain-streaked windshield. A flicker of light deep within the trees. A single, weak bulb illuminating what looked like a dilapidated shack. My blood ran cold. I pulled into the desolate clearing. The shack was truly dilapidated, its wood rotting, its windows boarded up. It looked like something from a horror movie, utterly abandoned, yet that single light was on. As my headlights cut through the darkness, two gaunt, silent figures emerged from the shadows near the shack. They moved with an unnerving slowness, their forms elongated, almost spectral in the dim light. They wore dark, heavy cloaks that seemed to absorb the light. Their faces were hidden, but I could feel their eyes on me, an intense, predatory gaze that made my skin crawl. They didn't speak. One of them raised an arm, gesturing towards the back of my truck with unnervingly long, skeletal fingers. It was a silent command, an expectation. They knew exactly why I was there. My heart was a drum in my chest, a frantic beat against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to drive away and never look back. But I was frozen, trapped by a terrible, morbid curiosity and an even greater fear. I slowly opened the truck's rear door. The moment it creaked open, a sickening stench rushed out, a powerful mix of old blood, fear, and something putrid like decaying meat. I gagged, fighting to keep my breakfast down. The two figures approached the open cargo bay, moving with a disturbing grace, their eyes still fixed on the crate. The cries from within the crate intensified, a desperate, pathetic wail. As they drew closer, I saw it. In a knothole on the side of the crate, a single, bloodshot eye opened. It was a dark, glistening orb staring directly at me, filled with an ancient, unspeakable terror. The eye wasn't human. It was too large, too dark, too full of raw, animalistic fear. It was the eye of something trapped, something suffering, something that knew its horrifying fate. This was the living content. A silent scream tore through my mind. I finally understood. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a special delivery. This was an abduction, a transport of something living, destined for a sinister purpose in this desolate place. The figures, with disturbing ease, lifted the heavy crate. They moved as if it weighed nothing, their unnaturally long fingers gripping the iron bands. The eye in the knothole remained fixed on me. As the crate cleared the truck's threshold, a final, piercing shriek, muffled but unmistakable, tore through the night. It was a sound of pure agony, a sound that would haunt my nightmares forever. I didn't wait. I slammed the truck door shut, scrambled into the cab, and floored the accelerator. Gravel spit from under the tires as I sped away, not daring a single glance back at the shack, the figures, or the horror I had delivered. I quit Walmart immediately, the moment I got back to civilization. I couldn't face another day, another route, knowing what unlisted horrors might be transported daily. The image of that eye, the sound of that scream, were burned into my soul. Even now, years later, the cold chill and phantom screams return. They are a constant reminder that I was an accomplice to something unspeakable, a cog in a machine that transports living nightmares. The sinister purpose of that cargo remains active and unknown, and I'll never forget that night.